come to that part of the day where we actually draw it to a close. So I actually forgot to do something earlier, and that was, Mr. Jolly, your infamous quote, which I think came from a stage in your career where someone gave you a little bit of counsel. I don't care what you do, Jolly, just do something. Every long journey starts with one small step forward. It does seem to me that we've been through a lot today. So firstly, if I could, again, thank you all for your participation in what has been a pretty solid 3 or 4 hours of both listening and participation. If I could thank the speakers for the job they've done, because there have been some, I think, quite interesting and quite insightful, provocative thoughts for us all to take away from today. We've covered a broad range of topics. Just to refresh, Carl took us initially on the journey of the Royal Commission, but the broader implication and flow-on impacts of that, what's going on there at the moment. Peter took us through the structure and the preparedness that's so important if you're going to confront a crisis. Carolyn with Warren took us through the journey that is never linear, but the journey of moving to become a very successful CEO, and how we all benefit from the ups and downs of that journey. Peter and Warren then again gave us that great deep insight, the voice of experience, the lessons, the things that have changed, the things that have not changed so much. Katja took us through that dramatic customer experience journey, the thing that if we're not focused on, we better be because someone else is. And as I love to say, if we're not focusing on our customers, I can assure you that our competitors certainly are. And Simon then brought it to a close by focusing on the one consistent, which is people are the greatest asset of every organisation. And whilst we hear about technology and automation and all that sort of stuff, the fascinating thing is, whilst Australia used to be a country, for example, that had very much a focus on manufacturing and certain industries that were employers in a particular way, as technology has come in, as we've moved more to a services economy, and there's a view that we'll be about 90% services economy in the next decade or so, we still sit there with relatively very low unemployment, which means there is a massive amount of change going on in the structure of the economy. So people are still at the heart of everything we do because we've got lots of people employed. They're just not in the same places they used to be. And if we don't adapt, then other people will, and we'll lose our great talent. So as a CEO, so important to focus on the culture and retaining the great talent as we go on the journey. I did say at the beginning of the day that I'd ask you if you had any insights of your own. Would anyone like to share an insight they took out of today?
Oh, come on. There's one here somewhere, I know. Am I going to pick someone? Tim, should I pick someone?
I would pick someone, Anne.
Okay, Bruce,
they're obviously
I'm
tired and in need of food.
That's quite all right.
Hi, Bruce Nixon from Syndicate 40. I think one of the big things is just being adaptable, being open to change. I think some of those learnings about being transparent with the organisation as well and how to communicate that. But first of all, accepting it yourself and say, yep, we have to change, we have to move on. Thank you.
Great point. We do have to change.
Shall I pick someone else? I'd like to pick Felicity.
Hi, Felicity Marie. I'm not in a syndicate, I've been invited today. I think from our table and our perspective, I think listening, be adaptive to change, as you said, but primarily listening and perhaps shut up and listen to what everyone else has got to say first and then react to that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Felicity. Would you like any more?
Yeah,
Put
let's
your
have a
hands
couple
up,
more.
guys, if you'd like to share something.
Oh, we've got
Brilliant.
two over here. Great.
Colin Ongley, Syndicate 70. Just going back to the Royal Commission earlier, talking about all things regulation and making sure we adhere to that. For me, what struck me most was that the community expectation is actually probably equally, if sometimes not more important, for all of our organisations, not just banking.
Yeah, it's a great point, isn't it? I think, Mike?
That's Matt from Syndicate 60. Yep. I think the main reminder to me, I like the Peter Jolly comment about I'll be here in a minute. I think every time I come to one of these, it reminds me that this is a great network, and what I'm going to take out of it is a reminder to leverage the network more often and more deeply.
That's a great point. There is a huge amount of wisdom in this room, isn't there? Okay, well, thank you for sharing
I
that.
have one more.
We have got one more?
I know Peter would like to contribute. You've been
You-
sat here very quietly all day, which is not like you.
I'm going to be probably a bit different. One thing that I think that today sort of highlights is collaboration is the key to successful organisations. And I think that the speakers have always spoken about a lot of the transitions through the organisation. I think one of the biggest things that I find is culture is important. And that transition from a company or firm or organisation that has a negative culture to a positive culture is probably where it all has to start and end. And until you do that, then the rest is all fluff until you achieve that.
Yeah, great note to finish on. We spoke earlier, and a lot of the work that came up in Simon's presentation, was effectively about the key elements of culture in an organisation. I always define culture as something more than just what we do around here. It's actually what we do around here when nobody's watching. And while you've been in here, is your culture being lived back in your organisations while nobody is watching? I'll leave you to think about that as you do two final things, please. Firstly, if you could please complete the surveys that were emailed to you and do those online so we can get your feedback about how today went, how it worked for you, whether the half-day format was useful for you, whether we had too few or too many speakers, and what you thought about the whole day. So feedback is very important to us so that we can design a better experience later. Catch up. Thank you so much.